What is the new deal on energy for Africa in Nigeria? That sounded like too many questions in one. I'm just saying. But hey, that's our focus today on the power solutions. I've been joined right now live from some part of the world by my co-host on this part of the show, the amazing Wiebe Boer. How are you doing, gentlemen? Good to have you today, always.
I think that song, the theme song, sounds much better with you singing also. Maybe next week we just get rid of the music and you just sing it for us.
I mean, I'm just saying, I love it. I mean, it's a very, like you say, it's like the best, intro sick tune for any radio show or any show at all in the world. And I agree, and I'm agreeing to that. Good to have you, Wiebe. We have a special guest today. Would you do the honors?
Yes. So on other days we have guests that talk in the hundreds of thousands, maybe the millions of dollars.
Yeah.
But this is Wale Shonibare. He's a director of the African Development Bank. He talks in billions. Anything less than $1 billion, it doesn't even get him out of bed. So this is. I think you need to do the shaker,
yes,
man. Shake it. This is all right. So we have Wale Shonibare, who's a director in the Energy Directorate of the African Development Bank. He's also an old friend. So Wale, glad to have you on the show. How are you today?
I'm very well, Wiebe. Hello, Collins. Good to be with you.
Good to have you.
All right, this is what billions looks like, guys. So listen, Wale, if you can tell us about yourself, just a bit of your background, and then what your role is at the African Development Bank.
Okay, my name is Wale Shonibare, born in Lagos in the 60s, and educated in Lagos as well as in the UK. Initial training as an engineer, then became a banker. Been working in project finance for about 25 years now. And at the African Development Bank, I look after energy financial solutions, where we provide financial solutions to private sector investors in the energy sector, and also look at policy, regulation, and statistics, because investors need information in order to be able to invest. So basically, we provide the enabling environment to allow investors, both local and international, to invest in our power sector.
Actually, a lot of people do not know the role that the African Development Bank plays in Africa. So please, could you briefly, tell us how the bank supports Africa's development?
Okay, the bank is the premier development finance institution for Africa. So it's a combination of the World Bank and the IFC for Africa. And we were established by African countries in 1964. The membership is currently 60% African countries, and then the balance 40% what we call the non-regional member countries. The bank's role is to stimulate investment, provide technical assistance, and also provide loans and equity to drive development across Africa. And we're supported by our members who have been kind enough to capitalize the bank to the tune of $200 billion. We did a capital raise last year where the members committed to inject $115 billion in the banks, to give us money to do more projects.
Man, it's good to talk money that big on a Monday, Wiebe.
It is. Yeah. So, listen, in 2016, the bank basically developed a new strategy specifically focusing on energy. If you could give us a little bit about that strategy and what the bank hopes to do across Africa, but also maybe a little bit specifically around Nigeria.
Yeah, I mean, the bank's strategic objectives, we call them the high five strategic objectives. These were introduced by President Adesina when he came in 2015. And the number one...
The first Nigerian, right? The first Nigerian president of the bank. All right.
That's correct. Yeah. And the number one of these strategic objectives is to light up and power Africa. Others are to feed Africa, to integrate Africa, industrialize Africa, improve the quality of life for Africans. But we know that you can't do any of those things without power. So we have to light up from Power Africa. And in order to implement this, we developed something called the New Deal on Energy for Africa, which is like the Bible, the roadmap to allow us to achieve these objectives. And one of the key things is to make sure that we get universal access to electricity. Right now, close to 600 million Africans do not have access to electricity. The sad fact of the matter is the largest population within those 600 million is Nigeria, with about 85 million people without access to electricity. So the New Deal sets out to say, if we're going to do that, what do we need? That means we need to connect an additional 200 million households across the country. We need to, about 75 million of those are going to be Offgrid connections, and about 100. In addition to that, we want to encourage cleaner cooking, because we don't want our forests being burned down using what we call, firewood and all those things. So we want to have another 130 million people pursuing clean cooking solutions. So that's going to cost a lot of money. We reckon it needs investments in the region of anything between 45 to 90 billion a year. And
per year?
Yes. The bank itself cannot do all of that. So we put in our own portion, but we also mobilize additional investment from our partners.
Wow, that's
So
quite
that's what you do.
that's quite ambitious. And I'm also made to know that the African Development Bank has ambitious goals to increase on grid transmission and grid connection that will create about 130 million new connections. I don't know if you mentioned that, an increase of grid generation to add about 75 million connections, and also increase access to clean cooking energy for about 130 million households. I mean, I would like to know what the process would be like, towards achieving this. That's like a tall order. And what's the process like?
Yeah, one of the things we've been trying to encourage is regional trade, because you have different parts of Africa that are endowed with energy resources. So along the Sahel in North Africa, they have excellent solar potential. They also have excellent wind potential. In places like DRC, Ethiopia, they have very significant hydro resources. And then in the West Africa, as you know, we have our oil and gas industry, so we have significant gas potential. And the idea is to say, look, there's no reason why every single country has to want to produce its own electricity. It may not be the cheapest. You find that it's often the case that the landlocked countries that are the poorest countries pay the most for their energy because they're using diesel generators. Whereas in other countries, they have very cheap hydro. So we're building what we call regional interconnections to connect countries, so connect Nigeria with Niger, and you have countries like Ghana selling electricity to Mali, Cote d'Ivoire selling electricity to Burkina Faso, etc. And through the regional trade, we can actually get everybody paying for cheaper electricity. So the regional interconnections is very key to implementing this plan. And also energy trade. And we've been talking about the Africa Free Trade Agreement. This is also part of it, where countries open up and start trading more freely. And in order to be able to benefit from the cheapest, what we call least cost electricity, that will make countries more efficient, in which case private investors can come in, because you're not just depending on one market. You're not only selling to embed, for instance, like you do in Nigeria. If the embed doesn't have capacity, you should be able to sell to the utility in Niger or even Ghana, and that makes the businesses more robust. So that's one of the key aspects of what we're doing. Other aspects of obviously involve the entire value chain. People focus on generation, thinking, that's sexy. They want to open new power plants, but you have to be able to collect the money. So distribution is also critical. And then the bit in between, which is a transmission. So we invest on each step of the way in order to have a value chain that is functioning and allows investors, whether public or private, to be able to get their money back.
Well said.
So Wale, between 2016 and 2019, the bank approved around 6 billion, maybe it's more, slightly less or more, in energy projects across Africa. What were some of the successes across the continent with that funding?
Yeah.
And then what are you seeing in other countries with some of these projects that Nigeria could really learn from?
Okay, I mean, some of the landmark investments the bank has made. If you go to Morocco, you'll see this plant called Ouazzazate, which is the largest concentrated solar plant that we have in Africa. Basically, that's very, very advanced technology, where you use mirrors to concentrate the light at the top of a pole, and then that is converted into heat that is used to drive the turbines.
Wow.
In Egypt, there's the Benzan plant, which is, I think that's the largest solar park in Africa. You can actually see it from space, where you have, 2,000 megawatts being generated. The bank is a strong supporter of that. You have close to maybe 50 odd private investors who are given plots, and they put the solar panels down, and combined you have quite a significant amount of capacity. We're actually doing a feasibility study for something similar in Jigawa State in Nigeria, to produce eventually 1,000 megawatts. But you cannot do that unless the rest of the value chain works. So in countries such as Egypt, countries such as in South Africa, they've had a significant renewables program, which has attracted close to $14 billion of private investment. And to be able to do that, though, the entire chain has to work. Your distribution has to work. You have to address things like electricity theft. You have to address collections. You have to address metering. So those things have to work. And the bank provides technical assistance to utilities to get them to be more efficient, to get them to reform and come up with a cost of service surveys, so that you know what the true cost of electricity is. The problem is a lot of the electricity tariffs are politicized. So you're not getting cost-reflective tariffs. And any business person will tell you that if you're running a business and you can't recover your costs, that's a road to oblivion. That business will never work. And so we're not saying there's no room for social subsidies. There is, but these subsidies, if they're present, have to be very clear, and they're paid on time, and you have to have, a timeline to eliminating the subsidies. It's better to give directly to people who need than to subsidize the rich in some countries. So these are some of the issues that you find in the sector. So the entire sector needs to work like a well-oiled machine. And if you have that, the investment will come in. You don't have to work too hard to do that.
Well, the new deal on energy for Africa in Nigeria is our focus today on power solutions, and we are having a conversation with the Director, Energy, Financial Solutions, Policy and Regulations, African Development Bank, in person of Wale Shonibare. Well, we said a lot already. My next question to you is, Nigeria is Africa's largest economy and accounting for more than 18% of the continent's GDP. What is the role, or what role is the African Development Bank currently playing in electrification of Nigeria? I'm very sure most Nigerians would like to hear your response to that question.
Yeah, I mean, the bank has been working very closely with Nigeria for a long time. Most recently, in electrification, we've been providing very strong support to the Rural Electrification Agency in relation to building a mini-grid industry in Nigeria. So we're working on the Nigeria electrification projects, where we're providing about $200 million alongside the World Bank to create these opportunities for developers to come in and develop mini grid sites. We've identified about 250 sites in addition to the World Bank 250. And on one of them, look, we're saying, look, we've looked at the sites, we think they're attractive, the private sector, please come in. And once you start operating successfully based on, what we call performance-based payments, we will give you back a percentage of your investment to allow you to be sustainable. And on some sites, we do auctions to allow to invite the private sector in as well. And so that's going on quite well. We just started implementing, and in the area of transmission, we also have working with Transmission Company of Nigeria. Our board approved about $200 million last year to improve the transmission networks to places like, the northeast and the southeast of the country that are not particularly well served, because it's important for us to be able to get the stranded generation capacity in this country that we need to get to the people that need it. So, and lastly, looking at opportunities to be able to strengthen distribution, because we know that investment is very urgently needed in distribution to allow the distribution companies to be successful and be able to provide the liquidity that the rest of the sector requires, because distribution is at the very front end. They're the ones that interface with customers, and customers will not be willing to pay if they're not getting the service. So we have to get the distribution companies working. So we're working in different capacities with different stakeholders in the sector, including Wiebe and all on, to get more liquidity into the sector.
Great.
So Wale, let's dig a bit deeper into the program you're doing with the Rural Electrification Agency. I think it's interesting that, obviously the bank is investing quite a lot in the power sector in Nigeria, but the one you mentioned first, and the one you look most excited about, and also the one that actually has a lot of the capital, is actually the Offgrid one, which is a very non-traditional approach for the bank. What has changed the bank's approach to also look at the Offgrid in such an important way? And then, where is this program now, and how many mini grids are there so far, and in what way will people in Lagos be touched by this?
Well, the bank is approaching the different parts of the value chain, at the same time. So we're not just focusing on Offgrid. We're focusing both on Offgrid and on-grid, because we know that you need the grid to achieve industrialization. That's where the significant amount of power is going to come from. But certainly in the case of the off-grid sector, Nigeria is actually the largest off-grid market in the world. But a lot of it is being done using diesel generators. I was reading somewhere that, I think it was 2018, something like 584 megawatts worth of generators were imported into Nigeria.
In 1 year, wow, okay.
Yeah, that's a significant amount, and it's not clean energy. As you know, the world is moving towards their climate change issues, the world is moving towards cleaner energy. And we feel that one of the ways of reaching more remote areas is through mini grids and solar home systems. Luckily, the technology has improved so much in recent years that it's now become economically viable to be able to roll these solar technology out at a reasonable cost. So we're very keen to encourage that. And also you'll find that, with grid connections, if you're waiting for the grid, you could be waiting for a long time. So the speed to market is also important. We've seen the reforms that the government has brought in terms of the mini grid regulations, and we feel that it actually provides a conducive environment. So there are quick wins on the mini grid side, and that's why we've been working with the Rural Electrification Agency, because you can see the results very quickly and there's quick turnaround. But even within the grid, within distribution companies, there are communities that are underserved.
Right.
So even within those communities, you can put those mini grids and they'll work with the distribution companies to be able to reach an arrangement whereby it's a win-win for everybody. And so we're doing that. In terms of what has been achieved to date, I mean the board approval was secured sometime around 2017. As you would imagine, it takes time to actually roll out. So our program is a bit started later than the World Bank's program, but if you look at the likes of the markets that are being electrified under that program, we're going to be doing the same. And even in terms of the direct benefits, we have work we're doing with 8 universities to be able to electrify all of the universities and the communities that surround them. So we have the universities that we have chosen, the World Bank have theirs as well, so that people will begin to see the benefits within a very short time. And we're also, like I said, we're working across 250 sites to be able to deliver. And luckily, you can roll these projects out within a year. You have electricity. It's going to the people. But one thing that is very important is the reform of the sector. So we're very involved in the policy dialogue with the government because the sector has to work as a business. And right now it's not working. Everybody recognizes that there are liquidity constraints. So we have to be able to implement the power sector reform plan so that the sector works as a business.
So, Wale, how supportive has the Nigerian government been with the African Development Bank to develop the energy sector in this country?
We have a very close relationship with the different arms of government, whether it's the regulator, whether it's NBET, whether it's the Energy Ministry, even the Ministry of Finance. We talk to them on a regular basis. These are difficult conversations to have. One of the things about the African Development Bank is that we have no vested interests, so we can talk as an independent arbiter, and we'll say that as it is, as we see it. So, it's taken a while, but I see more encouraging developments lately where there's a recognition by everybody that there's a problem. I mean, if you go to Alcoholics Anonymous, they'll tell you the first thing you recognize is that you have a drinking problem. So you have to own up. And a lot of people are in denial for a long time. They don't even accept that they have a problem. But we have a situation now where there's general acceptance that there's a problem and there's a liquidity problem in the sector. So we started talking about things like reforms to the tariff, but we also realized that vulnerable populations have to be supported. And so we have to look at creative ways of supporting, but we shouldn't deny that there's a liquidity problem in the sector. So we're working very closely with government and we're talking to them because we don't have to reinvent the wheel. All this stuff has been done before in other countries. So it's not rocket science. We just have to implement.
So Wale, you keep saying liquidity problem. The typical listener may not actually know what you mean by that. So can you just explain what you mean by a liquidity problem in the power sector?
Okay. So you have the people who have to collect money from the customers, the distribution companies. They're not collecting enough. Because they're not collecting enough, they're not paying the bulk buyer of electricity, NBET, they're not paying enough. And NBET has to buy electricity from the generation companies. So NBET is not able to pay its entire bill. So the guys who are generating the electricity, have to buy the gas. And because they're not collecting enough, they can't pay for the gas. And then the gas is priced in dollars and you're collecting Naira from the customer. So whenever there's an exchange rate issue, you find there's a mismatch. And so we have to fix that so that everybody gets paid. Because when people are not getting paid, then you can't even ask for good quality of service. And that's what I call the liquidity problem. And everybody has to own up to what's their contribution to that liquidity problem. So there's a lot of trading of blame, which shouldn't necessarily happen. So let's sit together and define the size of the problem, and agree how we're going to solve it.
Wow, great to know. Time is fast spent, but this very question I think is very, very expedient. What, in your opinion, do you think would be the game changer for renewable energy especially that sector in Nigeria? What will be the game changer?
The game changer for renewable energy everywhere is cheap enough storage solutions.
Okay.
Because you can generate the energy solar when the sun is shining. But what happens when there's no sun? You have to be able to store that energy and be able to deploy it in the evenings when there's no sun or where there's no wind. And so that's why companies like, entrepreneurs like Elon Musk are investing significant amounts in storage. Once you have that storage, then it makes renewable energy very competitive against other forms, and when that happens, it's going to happen very soon. It changes everything. Even on a personal level or individual levels, you see more people driving electric cars, and those cars can also be part of the solution for storage. Because while those cars are parked, if they have batteries that you can plug into a grid somewhere, you can actually be delivering stored energy to the grid. So you have to put that infrastructure in place. And so we've started, and obviously integration with the payment system is very important as well, because where you have mobile payments, you can link your energy solutions to that technology so that people who are providing the service get paid. But Nigeria is one of the most attractive markets in the world for Offgrid and renewable energy, because we have the population and we have the consumption. So we just have to we have to stay consistent to make it work.
All right, great.
All right. So Wale, what one final question before Collins kicks us off? Do we have time?
We have to. That should take us home like in 2 seconds.
Okay. So very quick question to Wale. So how has COVID-19 affected the operations of the ADB in the region? And then what of these changes do you think will remain for the long term? So very quick.
Well, I mean, the bank has launched a $10 billion COVID response facility. And it's very important because our governments are asking for the support. They need money, the budgets are constrained, so we've repurposed a lot of our spending to be able to support governments in the areas of health, and also budget support to companies to respond to COVID. So that's basically what we're doing. I mean, it's a multi-pronged approach, but we have to help governments support their fiscal situation to encourage them to be able to respond properly.
All right.
That's it.
Thank you very much, Wale.
Thank you. It's been a pleasure. Thank you, Collins.
Thank you.
Wiebe.
Great, thank you again. That's the much we have on Power Solutions. Wiebe will join me again next week, Monday. At the same time, we'll have another interesting guest. Right, Wiebe?
Oh, yes, we will.
Great. So, guys, wouldn't you rather stay tuned? Well, it's Nigeria's #1 for talk. That's much on Power Solutions right now. Coming up right after this, it would be the news. And coming up in the news with Yvonne Ohaifo, ensure that you stay tuned because you'll be learning why Korea companies are going on strike. Well, he also tell you about the case of multiple taxation of small businesses in Lagos, local council development area. Well, about sport, Ole Gunnar Solskjaer's plans with Manchester United, qualification for the UEFA Champions League. All these put together for your listening and delight and information on the news coming up in just a moment. Thanks for being a part. My name is Collins Teke.